Here we go. Cool. We are live. Well, welcome everyone. It's so great to have you here. Let me just start with asking a question. Do you ever feel like you have to have it all together long before people will take you seriously? So do you ever feel like you have to have it all together before people will take you seriously? You know, the women who build the strongest businesses aren't always the most polished. They're actually the most honest. And we think that credibility can come from perfection, but actually perfection can keep people at a distance. And so today I'm going to be talking about an amazing woman named Brené Brown, and I'm going to try and show you how vulnerability, the thing that most of us avoid, is actually the exact thing that can build trust, community, and momentum in your business. So welcome everyone. It's so great to have you back on the weekly Mum with a Side Hustle live call. This is week 5 of our series, Mama's Got Hustle, which has been a really great series looking into the lives of women who've built incredible businesses and just taking habits and lessons that we can from them. And today we're investigating and learning about a woman who I would call like a community builder. That's kind of the archetype that she represents for us today, Brené Brown. And she did that through vulnerability and connection. That was her business strength. And I want you to hear this, especially as a mum. Not every season allows us to show up in our superhero robes. Some days we're just surviving. I bet you feel like that. And the women that we're leading, they're not always wearing theirs either. So let's, do the best that we can to learn from Brené today. And I think that you're going to find small ways to take the principles that she has actually embodied with her whole life and apply them to you. And, as always, we're not here to compare. We're not here to try and be Brené, but we are here to apply what we can from her life. So why don't you pop in the chat? It's always great to hear from you. Yes, if you've done something even small to work on your side hustle this week. Now, I know it's only Wednesday for most of you. So let's say a week ago when we were on this call, from last week to this week, say yes in the chat if you've done something even small towards your side hustle. Yeah, come on, Sophie, good work. That's awesome to hear. I could write a big yes. Good work, Pam. I love it. And I bet Rita has done something. Even if it is Master the Code Reader, that is definitely working towards your business. So let's jump in. Oh, I see a thumbs up. Good work. Okay. Let's jump into her story. I love to just share her story and really explain just things you might not know about them. I think it's really inspiring and interesting to learn about what real life people have done and are doing. So Brené Brown didn't actually start by building a business. She was a researcher studying things most people avoid: shame, vulnerability, courage, and connection. So why don't you write in the chat if you've heard of Brené Brown, and I want you to give it a 5 if you know about her really well, you've read all her books, and give it like a 0 or close to a 0 if you know nothing, you've never heard of Brené Brown. Okay, so give us a scale from 0 to 5 on how much you know about Brené Brown. So she looked into shame, vulnerability, courage, and connection. So I believe that she was a sociologist or a social worker, actually. I think that was her background. So she didn't set out to champion vulnerability. She wanted to understand it. Okay, so none of you have really heard much about her. So that's great. Good. That shows me that I need to give you a whole lot of information so you get a bit of context. So she spent years studying connection, this one word, connection, and it revealed to her something that she found really shocking. The people who felt most connected, and connection is what leads to joy and happiness and satisfaction in life, were also most vulnerable. And what I mean by vulnerable is they lived with open hearts. They wore their heart on their sleeve. They were honest with people about their internal world. And Brené didn't actually like that. Like, she was a researcher and she found this information, but she didn't actually like what she'd found, because to her, vulnerability felt uncertain, exposing, like a big emotional risk. And I bet we can all relate to that. So she tried to control her results. She tried to intellectualize it and keep it at a distance. And she thought, if I can just figure this out, I won't have to feel it. But vulnerability isn't something you just study away. You have to walk through it. And so Brené actually made a decision. She made a decision instead of researching vulnerability, she would live it. And I think I'll be sharing more how she did that. She actually ended up going to counseling and went, I think, to counseling for quite a long time because she was so confronted with what she found in her research and realized how far she was from true connection and true vulnerability. So in 2010, this is when I met her around this time, Brené gave a TED talk and it was deeply personal. It was not perfect, it was real. And that talk spread like wildfire. It was a TED talk. People didn't just read her research, they felt it. It's actually a really incredible TED talk. I remember the first time I watched it, I was so blown away. And I've watched TED Talks from her, like the second one she did it might have even been like a year or more later. That TED Talk that she gave made her feel so vulnerable and actually brought up a lot of shame for her. And so it was like a really big deal, but it really broke open everything that she wanted. And it actually broke open opportunity for her. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. So, how her research became a business. So, she realized her work didn't only belong in journals, it belonged with people. So, she stepped out. She turned research into books that people could read. She said yes to speaking opportunities. She created programs for leaders and organizations, and she showed up online building a global audience. Brene wasn't just a researcher in a quiet office, she turned her work on shame, courage, and connection into a real business. Not because she was chasing money, but because she made her research human and usable. So this was her progress. She went from research to content to connection to business. And she didn't just build an audience, she actually built a community. And I sort of went into that, like, well, surely it's just an audience if they're just sitting there listening and if they are buying your books, like they're just consuming your content. But because she started creating courses and doing programs and showing up online, connecting with people, it actually created this amazing community. And it's had an incredible ripple effect across the world. Not just the research she did, but the way she speaks about it. And she's written books on leadership, Dare to Lead. I've watched videos and podcasts of her talking about how to be work better as a team. She's really stepped into and done something quite amazing with what she learned and what she did. So yeah, I think it's, to me, what stands out about her journey is that she took something that doesn't pay very well. Social research doesn't really pay. But what she found was so powerful, she translated it into something that was so relatable to people and so helpful to people that they were willing to pay for it. And that's why it's so important that we never give up on something that we know deep inside ourselves has got value and worth to it. And I've got other examples of that. I've recently finished The 21 Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell, and he shares a story about a woman who had a specific skin condition and created a makeup for it. And just the journey she had to go on in terms of like her personal conviction. And then the reason it actually sold was because she modeled it. I think it was on like a live TV program, and she put the makeup on herself and showed her specific, maybe it was psoriasis or something, skin before and after, and then her makeup just went crazy. And I think it eventually sold to L'Oreal. So there is an importance here of conviction and really believing in something. Of course, Pam can tell us all about market research and doing those really important steps. But yeah, sometimes the thing that you have is has been what's the word, steeping away for a long time, and you just don't know where around the corner it's going to come out. So Brene has 2 children and a husband. His name's Steve, and her career grew while her kids were still school age. So snapping at kids, repairing those relationships, realizing research had to show up at home, choosing connection even when it was slower and harder. And she had a core belief of who we are is how we lead. She didn't separate motherhood from work. She lived both imperfectly. Yeah, so I think it's been really interesting to research her. And I guess I've always had like a little bit of a belief that something's just never going to make money. And I love that Brené sort of breaks that mold. Like she's actually made money and made a business that has helped so many people with something that that traditionally doesn't make money. She's actually converted that into something that people can actually apply. So why don't you pop in the chat something about Brené's story that you found interesting or that surprised you. It'd be really cool to hear what you took from that story. And we'll just pop over to YouTube and say hi to anyone who's watching us now or later on. Look, if you were watching the replay of this call, thank you so much for being here. This is a place for mums who are in the season of busy motherhood, but have a dream and a desire to build something that's going to last beyond motherhood and maybe even fund your life so that you don't have to go back to work or beyond kind of trading time for money. That's why we're here and that's why we exist. Okay, so I always try and take some habits from the person that we've studied. And so today that's no different. We've got 3 habits that I think we can take from Brené that we can apply and that are going to be helpful in our lives. Yeah, that's really cool, Pam. Love that she pursued her convictions and chose to go all in with vulnerability when it was her uncomfortable place. Isn't that so true? Sometimes the thing that we are so uncomfortable with can actually be something that a lot of people struggle with. Like actually she kind of found a problem, didn't she? She found a problem to solve. Cool. Sophie, her business comes from her heart. She didn't let her thought just go by. Yeah. And it's easy to dismiss those ideas that we have. Okay, so habit number 1 is practice vulnerability daily. So this comes from Brené's very first TED talk, which you can look up. And it comes from the idea of choosing to be seen. So what Brené did was she stopped hiding behind her research and she chose to share her own story openly, honestly, and imperfectly. And that's what made people connect. And I think for all of us, that's what actually helps us connect with others is when we're open and honest, right? I know that like Pam's a communicator and some other of you are probably watching. Like if you are trying to speak to a group of people, you've got to find a way of connecting with them. Otherwise, they probably won't buy into what you're saying. They'll get bored and switch off. So connection is really, really important. So the habit we want to draw out of this one, practicing vulnerability daily, is it's up to you how you want to do this. I've got a few suggestions, but you might want to share authentically about your side hustle journey on your social media, for example, like the messy, chaotic moments. But I had thought, actually, if vulnerability is hard for you, a better place to start would actually be opening up to maybe your partner or a really good friend on how you're feeling. Maybe it's a fear or a worry or even a joy that you may have missed sharing because of the busyness of life. I often find that I can cover over some of the hardest feelings and moments because our lives are just busy and you get to bed and you just want to crash. But it's really important for a relationship that you open up and share. So yeah, if you want to practice vulnerability, maybe you just start with the people around you and you just share something that's deep that you maybe didn't want to say or that you felt safer not saying, even though you know that person's trustworthy, they want to know your heart. You held it back anyway. So I encourage you to give that a little try. So yeah, that's something I try and do regularly, especially if it's been busy and Zeph and I haven't even talked. I'm like, hey, this is how I was feeling this morning. And it doesn't even have to be about your relationship. It could just literally be something internal that you were feeling or a word that God gave you maybe, and you just hadn't shared that with them. So why don't you pop in the chat one place you can practice vulnerability today? One place you're going to practice vulnerability. Okay, let me take a little drink here. How you guys doing? You're welcome to pop an answer in the chat if you're free to do that, if your hands are free. Okay, so number 2, habit 2 is let go of control. So this was anchored in her resistance and her trying to intellectualize vulnerability. So when she discovered vulnerability was really important, actually her first thing was to try and intellectualize it, to get it kind of away from herself. But what she discovered was that as she tried to control vulnerability, study it, figure it out, and keep it at a distance, it got even more uncomfortable. So the breakthrough came when she let go of control and tried to live it instead. And that's what I said about her choosing to go to counseling. We're just going to pause for a second. Pam says, I've been so vulnerable lately, so I'm going to say I've ticked that box. Well done, Pam. Good job. I'm proud of you. I think vulnerability is the cornerstone of connection in your relationship with your partner, definitely. Cool. Sophie says, I'm thinking of what I can share on social media that is a part of my story. I have a very deep, life-changing story to share at some stage. Yeah, wow. And sometimes the story can be like, I've got parts of my story that I'm not ready to share. So it's not like vulnerability is like kind of open slather about your whole life, but I think it's being real and not trying to fake it. I think that is probably the key about that. And some of our stories, you'll know when it's the right time to share it, Sophie. Maybe it is already the right time, but you just need more time to think about it. Is that where you're at the moment?
Yeah, I feel like it's something that is a part of my why.
Yeah.
Like just to touch briefly, like I was suicidal through my teenage years, and the story of that has then been complete deliverance. And I hadn't really been telling people about that for a long time,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I just feel like that's a part of the reason why I'm on social media, is just like bettering your life in every area of your life.
Mm.
And yeah, my story with all of that is a part of why I show up every day.
Yeah, that's massive. And there'd be so many people who would probably hear that at just the right moment, and that would be really impactful for them.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So I just am waiting on the timing of getting up to that. But as a mum, you can only build slowly in certain hours of the day, as I'm sure you all know.
Yeah, Laura has so one of our mum tribe, Laura, she's been really vulnerable about her story, and Pam's just saying she's been really impressed with how she's shared that. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, Pam. So letting go of control. How do you guys feel when I say that? Releasing the need to have everything figured out before you show up. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a willingness to begin. And I think you guys have all definitely exemplified this. I think we've been harping on about this for like in May, we'll have been doing these calls for 2 years. So yeah, we've been chatting about letting go of control and just showing up imperfectly for a long time now. But if you're new with us, that might be a new thought, and that's why it's worth repeating. You don't have to be in control of everything. Vulnerability is actually letting go of control, and trusting that it's going to be okay to be a little bit messy. So yeah, I encourage you, maybe if you want to try letting go of control, you could share something this week without overthinking it. You could share it online, or you could just share it with someone. You don't have to wait till it's right. Just go with it. And I often still feel that when I'm doing a post, okay, I'm just going to go with that idea that I had, because if I overthink it and rewrite it so many times, I won't get anything done. Yeah. So is there anything you guys could share this week that you might be tempted to overthink? And what might you put out there? Just say yes if there's something you could put out there that you're going to overthink. I totally agree with you, Rita. Like messy does feel awkward. I get that. But that people will remember you if you are messy. Like if you show up and you be like, hey, like I sell makeup and I didn't put it on today. This is what I look like without it, but this is why I believe in it. And this is how it changes my mood. I don't know. They'll remember that, because how many people who sell makeup are willing to be seen without it on their faces? You remember the ones who do. Okay, number 3, habit 3, name and lean into courage. So Brené didn't wait till she felt ready. She chose courage and stood on that stage. This is the TED Talk. And she shared before she knew how it would be received. And like it still made her uncomfortable after she did it. I don't even know if she felt that victorious feeling until all these years later. Like if she hadn't shown up and done that TED Talk, that vulnerable TED Talk on that day, would her business and would the impact of her message have spread out in the world? It wouldn't have, right? It would not have spread. And you could be one honest reflection away from breaking through into something that could really help a lot of people, right? And so that's something we can really, really learn from Brené, is to choose courage. So Sophie says, I realize to just post what you've got instead of overthinking it to be perfect. That's right. You've got to start somewhere. I tell my husband that all the time. What did she share in that TED Talk? So she talked, I think it's called The Power of Vulnerability, Pam. You'll have to go watch it. But she basically shared part of her personal story. When you watch it, I don't think you feel like she was being extremely vulnerable, but I think she hadn't shared it ever before. And so I think it felt vulnerable to her. That's the impression I get, because when I watched it, I didn't think, oh, wow, like she's so brave. And isn't that like how it is often? Like you think you're doing something so brave and everyone's like celebrates you, but they don't know like what it cost you to actually show up and do that. So yeah, this week you might want to take visible, courageous steps in your side hustle, even when it feels uncomfortable. Or you could do what I did last week. Was I was having just like a funk. I was in a funk, and Zeph and the boys had used the ice bath that we have on our deck the weekend before, on like the Friday, and it was Monday, and there was still ice in it, and I was like, you know what? I just need to snap out of this. And I don't really like uncomfortable things at all, but I chose to give it a try. And I've had this, it's probably a really good thing, but it's also not good sometimes for me. But if I fail at something, I really want to give it another go. So I actually had to do it twice, because I got in and I was not prepared for how cold it feels and how it literally stops you from breathing. And I got in too fast, like I rushed it. I was probably overconfident. So I got out, I stood there for a second and thought about it. And the kids were like, they were all thinking I was awesome. But I knew I hadn't really achieved what I wanted to achieve. I was trying to be in there for at least a minute. And so then I listened to Zeph, let him coach me, because he is a personal trainer and he's done a lot of ice bathing. And and I got back in, and I listened to him when he said, focus on your breath and not on how cold it feels. And so I did that. And I did it. I went well over a minute, did a minute 16. And I don't think it's like a necessary part of my life to do ice bathing. I feel like it's great for like men and maybe women at the right time in their cycle, but I'm not saying I'd be like doing it every day. But the feeling I got for overcoming that and being like, yeah, I can do it. It felt really good, and it came out stronger. And it made me feel like a bigger person. And that was, I guess, what I wanted to ask you guys, could you take a step this week, an act of courage that would make you think about yourself a little bigger? And it made me think, what can I do next? Like, what's the next thing that I could do that's a little bit scary that I could give a try, that I can then take from that, hey, like I'm doing awesome, or I really overcame that. So yeah, buddy, pop in the chat. Is there something that you've been sitting on that takes a lot of courage to do that you're willing to do? I really love how Jade, she's another one of the mum tribe who hasn't been able to make it today, but Jade really found public speaking really hard, which is so funny because she is so great at her social media. We really love everything you post, Jade. But yes, speaking in public just really threw you. And so Jade joined Toastmasters, which is a group that helps you learn how to speak. And she literally is still working on conquering that. And I think that's an example of courage. What is it that's actually holding you back? Or what is it that's going to help you think about yourself bigger? So yeah, which of these three feels like one you're going to try this week? We'll go over them again. Number one, practice vulnerability daily. Number two, let go of control. And number three, name and lean into courage. Okay, let's tie this all together. So these three habits build on each other, right? So vulnerability helps you show up. Letting go of control helps you stop holding yourself back. And courage helps you take bigger steps. I love it, Pam. Number three. Yeah, awesome. So how it works is you'll show up before you feel ready, you'll let go of needing control, and you'll choose courage anyway. And this is how connection is built. This is how community is built. And that's how you grow a business. So yeah, pop in the chat, or you could unmute if you wanted to, and you don't have to put your camera on, but you might want to share one thing from today's talk about Brené's journey that has challenged you. Love to hear your feedback. Okay, we'll see. Is there any mamas here on YouTube at the moment? Yeah,
Can
come
I
on,
jump in a
Sophie.
little bit?
Yeah, I'd love that.
I really enjoyed her story of vulnerability because I think that being authentic is the only way to truly put out and truly have output.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like you can paint a perfect picture and especially on social media, it's very easy to be like, wow, look at all these great little snippets of my life, and it's like they didn't see you crying in the wardrobe because of some other reason. So like I think putting the effort into sharing the whole story just keeps it real, and I think
Yeah.
that's what I enjoy about being on here as well, is that we're not here to be some big badass business lady. We're here to grow together, to grow properly here.
And I hope
And
we are big badass business ladies one day, Sophie. That's where we're going,
oh,
right?
we absolutely are. But it's all the real bits in between
Yeah,
as well, the real struggle.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And yeah, so that was probably my biggest takeaway from that story is to keep your business authentic.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Pam, have you got any thoughts there? You've probably got little ones climbing on you. But we always love hearing from you.
Yeah, I think I've definitely felt pressure around, yeah, I am being shouted at by a little person. Okay, thank you. Um, yeah, I think I've definitely felt pressure to be polished. I feel like kind of the space that I'm in as well, it kind of goes hand in hand with that. And a lot of the people I follow are so polished that it's hard
Yeah.
to not feel that pressure. So I have done some vulnerable posts, but yeah, it's okay. You don't have to eat it. You're gonna eat your feijoas? Okay, then you can get down. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll have her feijoas. We don't have any here.
Oh, she ate at breakfast. She's complaining about everything. Yeah, so the vulnerable posts have actually probably been the ones that have had the most meaningful results and like responses from people that not results as in sales, but just like that's really spoken to someone deeply.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it's just figuring out in the space that I'm in how to stitch in those vulnerable stories. And yeah, I think it's tricky too because like my first business that I started failed. And I think I know there's this whole thing around celebrating failure, but there have been some successes, but they haven't felt, I don't know, they've felt a little bit like at arm's length, not like something that I could really claim as my personal success. So it's that tricky thing of like you're trying to show that what you have is valuable and not just tell the stories of things that failed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I get
I
that.
haven't quite figured out how to do that.
Oh, I think if anyone can figure that out, Pam, it will definitely be you. I get that. Like, I feel like I'm at a tension point at the moment where I want to be winning far more than I am. And so showing up vulnerability is really hard because I feel like, hey, like I've been leading this mum with a side hustle group for almost 2 years. Like I should have something to show for it. And I do have things to show for it, but it's not maybe like what I thought I was going to have to show for it. Does that make sense? That's the tension that I feel. So that's why today's call was so hard for me to write, because the topic itself was very confronting. Like how honest can I be with myself and with my community about what I've been trying, and why is it not working fast enough? I tell everyone that it takes time and consistency and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, then I have to live that, I have to live that keeping on going when I don't see the results that I want. I have to live the not knowing if what I'm trying to do is going to work. And having faith, walking in confidence, because I'm actually leading other people and I want them to have that same confidence. But then I felt uncertain, and it's pretty hard. So vulnerability is hard. I think there's two main reasons for me why I think vulnerability is hard. One of them is a parenting one. So I honestly often feel like I'm parenting under a microscope. And I also find that social media can put a lot of pressure on making perfection seem mandatory. I think that, you've kind of touched on that a little bit, Pam, maybe a little bit more in depth in the business world. But, vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's just having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. And that one sentence would define how I've been feeling this week. I have no control over the outcome. I have control over the output, but not the outcome. And so I'm showing up vulnerable every day that I post at the moment. So yeah, there might be days when you've got low energy, and maybe you can just do a small amount of something. Post one insight, reply authentically to someone, share a small real life moment. But then there are days when you might want to be bold, and have practice that courage. You might want to go live. You might want to share a struggle and a learning. You might want to write a longer post. Courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen. And that's what you guys are here for. So well done. Connection is why we're here. It's what gives our lives purpose and meaning. And it gives meaning to our work and everything else. Every honest share builds trust, sparks courage, and turns your side hustle into impact. So which parts of your messy, chaotic moments this week could help someone else feel less alone? And maybe, Sophie, you don't have to start with sharing the whole story that, you shared with us, feeling, the years of feeling suicidal thoughts, coming at you. Maybe it's like the micro share this week, the start of the story, hey, I've never opened up to anyone about this, but I really, really struggled in my teen years, and it doesn't have to be even that much more, because the story will unravel, and at least you've broken it open a little bit, maybe it's the micro move. So yeah, my challenge this week for us is to share one honest piece of your journey publicly. A lesson you're learning, a struggle you're navigating, or a moment from your day as a mum. Real, not polished, and not perfect. So yeah, pop yes in the chat if you're going to do that. And I also am curious to know if anyone practiced, if you got to watch last week's call, because there was actually no one on live with me last week. Last week, the challenge was to use the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then take action. So if you did do last week's challenge, extra bonus points. Just say, yes, I did last week, or don't say anything. If you didn't actually get to listen to the call, you don't have to admit that. That's fine. Okay, so round up today. Vulnerability builds connection. Connection builds community. Your challenge is to share one piece of your journey this week. And your identity is that you're not just building a business, you're building a space where people feel seen. And they can connect with you because you feel real to them. So if you know a mum who feels like she's the only ambitious one in her circle, why don't you send her this replay, because I think she belongs here in the Zoom call. And to round up, I just want to remind each of you that you have a superpower because of the season that you're in. Limitations are invitations to transform ourselves into something even greater. Yes, we're figuring out how to build our dreams while mothering. And I truly believe you become a better mum when you follow the small ideas and passions that light you up. So whatever you're facing in your parenting, in business or relationships. Let's be women who see the challenge and rise. Thank you guys. So great to have you here. And if you want to stay and chat, we'll do that in the Zoom room. And see you later if you are